Welcome to the channel, everyone. I'm Josh with TBR Gunworks, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite general purpose rifle. Hope you enjoy. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk about this. I've been hinting on social media like Instagram and Facebook for a while that I'm making a video on this, but I wanted to do a little bit more testing before I came out with it. So today we're talking about my favorite general purpose rifle that I built. It is not a, buy as it comes gun. I just wanted to talk about some things that I really liked about this and why I built it. So first of all, make sure you guys hit subscribe or like the video on YouTube. If you're on Rumble, hit the Rumble button. I really appreciate you guys watching. And I want to answer the question first, what is a general purpose rifle, right? And in my mind, a general purpose rifle is typically somewhere between 12.5 and 16 inches, has some sort of magnification available to it. So even if it's just a magnifier with a red dot, an LPVO, an ACOG, an LCAN, a loophole hammer, don't say those much anymore. But that's typically the length, typically has magnification, and it's something that you can rely on for the preservation of life, right? That's something that we look for a general purpose rifle. There may be some other categories or some other factors that are at play, but that's in my mind what I'm looking for in a general purpose rifle. So on mine, I currently have the LPVO, the Razor Gen 2 HD 1:6. So I have that. I also forgot to mention that typically general purpose rifles have a light, weapon light of some sort. I'm really happy with this build, guys. I've been using it for quite a while. I've held off on this video for a good while because I wanted to do as much as I could with it before I came out and said whether or not I was happy with it. Why a general purpose rifle? Well, a general purpose rifle is also typically good for most cases, most use cases, sorry, but not perfect with any of them. So it's not going to be a perfect designated marksmanship rifle. It's not going to be a perfect, quote unquote CQB rifle. That's a whole argument in itself. I don't like that idea, but it's not a specialized weapon, right? I'm a big believer in purpose-built weapons. It is definitely purpose-built, but it's not specialized for one specific use case. And that's why the barrel length is usually anywhere from that 12.5 to 16 inch range. Anything past that 16 inches and you're really getting into long barrel territories like the 18 inches, the 20 inches, 22 inches, typically used for designated marksmanship rifles or competition long gun rifles. Like you might see something like that in a PRS competition or a DMR competition. Or even if it's outside the competition use, when you're looking at military use, those are usually the barrel lengths saved for DMRs. And then too short, man, you lose a ton of velocity. You start losing a lot of the ballistic advantage of barrel length. And it may look cool for CQB, but it's kind of not always ideal. 12.5 is typically the shortest I recommend when it comes to velocity. I know there's a lot of 10.3 guys out there, I get that. But this is my general purpose rifle. So let's start from the back and go to the front. I want to talk about what's in this rifle before we go into any more information. I'll talk about why I like it, what it has done for me, and whether or not you should consider some of these components when you're doing your own general purpose rifle build. So from the back, we have a B5 Systems stock. We have the Voltor buffer system, including their tube, not the Sons of Liberty Gunworks tube. Guys, the charging handle, whatever, castle nut, irrelevant. Radian lower with a Radian safety. Talk about that more in a minute. Voltor upper without the Ford Assist. So no Ford Assist in there. On the inside, we have a Sons of Liberty Gunworks bulk carrier group. We have a Ford Controls Designs handguard, a 13.7 inch Sons of Liberty Gunworks barrel. We have a Sons of Liberty Gunworks Knox muzzle device and the Modlite PLH V2. On top, clearly we have the Vortex Razor Gen 2 glass with a Condition 1 1.7 Badger mount. I think we got over everything that's important. Trigger doesn't matter either. It doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about today. So this is a relatively short, quote unquote short barreled weapon, but it has performed pretty good. And I know a lot of you guys are saying that's not short. I know it's not short, but it's compared to most 16 inch rifles, you're getting about as short as you can go without SBRing it, because it is a pendant welded muzzle device, and 13.7 is typically the shortest you see pendant welded. I have pinned and welded a 12.5, but it becomes irrelevant because the muzzle device you would need to get to that 16-inch barrel length is a little bit wacky. So we don't like that. This gun has had, I want to say, it's in between 1,000 and 1,500 rounds. So not crazy extensive testing when it comes to ammo. Money-wise, it's just I can't afford to test 20,000 rounds through it, or 10,000 rounds through it before I make the video. But I did manage to get a good spread of ammunition types through it to make sure it ran with everything I could get my hands on. So just going to read off a list over here that I have to my side. We did get a good bit, hundreds of rounds of Wolf Steel Case, Polyformance, 55 grain to run through, but no issues whatsoever. Wolf Gold, 55 grains. Black Hills TSX projectiled, 55 grains. Black Hills 75 grain match Bowtail hollow points. 8AC 77 grain open tip match. M855 Barnes Vortex 55 grainers. Hornady 75 grain training, which is interesting because it's an 11-year-old. It's a big lot of 11-year-old steel cased 75 grain ammunition from Hornady that's lacquered. So junk ammo would have like 100 feet per second velocity deviation. So not consistent, but it was interesting just to see that Hornady used to make steel case. I didn't know that until I found this ammunition. And then Atlanta Arms 77 grain Sierra Match King. So this is the most I have used. Those are the different ammunitions I have used. There may be one or two other. I think there was a Remington ammunition I used in it. But like 20 rounds, not worth mentioning. And I don't know which one it was. So no issues, but I know it's beneath 2,000 rounds tested, but above 1,000. So I don't know where we're at in there. I did the best I could to keep track, and then I lost count and gave up. So it's been very, very reliable. It has been used in, let's see, two gun matches. It has dropped 2 deer as of 2022. Might use it again in 2023. We'll see. It has been used in a DMR match, and it has been used in multiple classes. So I've used it everywhere I could afford to use it, just to do the testing, right? So the 2 gun matches, one at Clinton House, one in North Carolina somewhere. Second place in both of those matches, so that was pretty neat. I got beat by a really, really good shooter at the one in North Carolina, and I cost my team first place at the Clinton House match. Just one mistake cost us first place, so it did everything I asked of it. With the deer, it dropped a buck and a doe in 2022, and then with the DMR match, it took 4th place overall. I was beat by 3 really, really fantastic shooters. Scott Peterson of the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit, Mark Smith with JVS Training Group, a buddy of ours named Paul, who was also down there in Alabama with us, and then I took 4th. In the Recce division, the division this rifle was actually in, it took 2nd place. So overall was 4th, but the actual Recce division was 2nd place, only to Mark Smith. So this was in the Recce division because it had less than a 16-inch barrel. It had an LPVO, and it was in 5.56. So it stuck in this Recce division, not the DMR division, even though it was a DMR match. It had no problem hitting targets up to 800, and even when we were gathering zero, gathering data on the ammunition we were using for the match, which was the Atlanta Arms, it had no problem hitting 1,000 once we got the wind figured out. It took 2 rounds to figure out the wind hold, and then on the 3rd round, we hit the 1,000-yard target, and then the 2nd followed shot to confirm. We got 2 hits on 1,000 yards. I'm not chasing 1,000-yard shots with this thing, man. It's just interesting to see what the gun is capable of. You don't need an 18 or 20-inch barrel to take these farther shots, but they do help, right? This gun was not... It was not helpful in the DMR match, put it that way. Like, I was shooting the DMR match on hard mode, right? A 1-to-6 LPVO and a shorter barrel than I was allowed to have, right? It was not made for that match, but it performed excellent. It did everything I asked of it, and all the issues that cost me cost me the top 3 positions was on me. It was, time trying to get steady and then reading wind. So the gun has performed fantastic. I want to talk about a little bit why I chose the parts I chose, okay? So to start out with the buffer system, guys, I really think the Voltor A5 buffer system is the future. Whether or not you get their A5 tube, Suns makes a tube as well. The only real difference is that this tube has 7 positions, and the Suns Liberty Gunworks has 9 positions for your stock. Doesn't matter, dealer's choice, right? But the buffer system is extremely good at tuning your rifle for the felt recoil impulse, as well as just reducing overall wear to the firearm because of reducing your bolt carrier group's velocity. By the way, I forgot to mention it has an H2 in there currently, and I will be doing some testing with an H3 to see if it will reliably use the H3 buffer, but I won't be doing any of that with like the steel case Wolf, right? Like, it's probably not going to run that with the H3, who knows, but I'll be doing that with some of the better ammunition I've got. So that's why I chose the Voltor system. I think it is substantially better than the carbine buffer system. It is the future. I don't think you need to get really complicated buffer systems to help tune your rifle. This is still just a spring and a buffer, but it reduces carrier velocity, which reduces overall wear. It's a good investment, guys. I highly recommend it. The Geissele was because the Geissele charging handle was because I had it. It's not a specific choice. I actually think the Radian charging handle is better, but I'll be doing some testing when my suppressor comes in because we're still waiting on that daggum suppressor to come in. I'm going to do some testing between the Radian SD and then the Geissele, which one's better gas busting. Pretty sure the Radian's going to win. All the reports I got back from a couple buddies of mine, the Radian's the best. So I already had this laying around. Why not use it? I chose the Voltor upper because a buddy of mine had it, right? It was available to me, and it didn't have the forward assist, which I actually didn't want. I don't need the forward assist. I've never actually seen a malfunction in real life, meaning at a match or in a class. I never seen a malfunction that would have been cleared with a forward assist. I just haven't seen it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's not that it has never happened in history. It's just that it's not common anymore because the issues it was designed to fix were pretty much entirely fixed before the end of Vietnam. So the forward assist, in my opinion, is obsolete. There is one case use where I think it actually comes in handy, but it's specifically with hunting, so it's not super duper important. This is not a hunting dedicated gun, so I don't care. So I didn't want that. Paid my buddy for that. And then the Radian lower. The Radian lower is interesting because it's not because it's Radian, it's because of the ambi controls it has that I wanted it. I like the ability to hold the mag release with my finger and pull the charging handle back to lock the bolt to the rear, because in competitions, as soon as you finish shooting the stage, you need to pull the bolt to the rear, show it clear, and then usually put a chamber flag in there. It's a lot easier to not have to change the rifle, the way I'm holding it to lock the bolt to the rear. I'd rather just keep my hand in the firing position, pull the charging handle to the rear, lock the bolt back, done. And I'm dropping the mag while I'm at it. I don't care if the mags hit the ground. So I liked the Radian lower. I was able to find one in OD green. It's a green Tano build. I mean, there's tan here, there's tan here. There's Vortex Bronze, I think they call it here, and Geissele's version of tan, Ano. It's all over the place. It's a bit ugly. It's growing on me. I kind of like it. Think I'm going to get the suppressor Cerakoted in Vortex Bronze. We'll see. The Radian safety, which I mentioned earlier, we would talk about in a little bit, right? The Radian safety has been the only issue I have with this firearm, and that is a known issue. Radian is sending me a new safety to replace this one. They did so for free, and they did so because I sent them a video. It's not because I posted a video, it's because I emailed them and said, hey, my safety can go past the firing position, the semi-auto position. And if you roll it too far past the semi-auto position, it will lock up, and the lower has to be disassembled, not entirely disassembled. You take the grip off for that detent to lose pressure. And that's what it takes to get the gun back into an operating condition. So clearly that's a big issue. Emailed them, sent a video of it doing it, and they're sending me a new one. So once that one comes in, we'll see if it fixes the issue. It's not something that will naturally happen to 99.999% of people, in my opinion. It's never naturally happened to me. I was shown the issue by somebody else. I tested mine to see if it would do it, and it did. Not all do it. One of my coworkers, his does not do it. He also has a Radian ADAC lower with a Radian safety, and you can't roll his past the semi-auto position, so it's not a 100% issue. It seems to be maybe a batch or a certain run of these safeties that had the issue. So the Radian lower was because of the bolt lock with the mag release ability and feature, and the bolt release on the right side feature is good. I like it. A lot of times in matches, they'll say start with your bolt lock to the rear, And a lot of people will have to, move as soon as the buzzer goes off, go to the position, and then they have to get their hand on the lower to drop the bulk carrier group. Or they have a bad lever. That's fine too. I don't like bad levers. I don't like all that extra stuff hanging out there. So this is nice because as soon as the buzzer goes off, I can just move and tap that and keep doing what I'm doing while getting the bolt drop. And I know a lot of you are like, why does it matter? It's like half a second. Well, half a second matters in a match, but also sometimes, as I learned recently in this DMR match, your left hand might be holding a bag to build a stable position when you get, to where you're going to fire from. And so you don't want to have to set the bag down, then come back, drop your bulk carrier group, and then get back on target. So it's nice to just do it all with one hand. It's a neat feature. It's a very expensive lower. It's not a requirement. I think the most important parts I'm talking about today with this firearm is the barrel, bulk carrier group, and buffer system. Everything else you can tweak around that. It doesn't matter which handguard you have, unless you're doing IR, laser aiming devices of some sort. This is dealer's choice, guys. This is user preference. I recommend getting high quality, not the $25 or $50 handguards you find at like Academy. No shade, but just saying, you don't have to build this crazy thing, right? This thing is pretty expensive. I definitely saved up and bought all these parts over time. It wasn't something that I just dropped the money on because I'm a baller. Wish I was. The Condition 1 mount. So this Badger mount, the reason I got this is because I want to do a 45-degree offset red dot, specifically the 509T. I will shill out for the 509T. I think it's one of the best pistol red dots on the market right now. And it makes a pretty good 45-degree offset red dot. I like the way the Condition 1 mounts are modular, and I just like the way you can put a 45-degree on there as opposed to on the rail. I think it's pretty good. I'm going to go with that once I can scrounge up some money for that. I can't say anything about the Mod Light. I was gifted a Mod Light. Right? This is not something I paid for. I was gifted this by a really cool person, and I'm super happy with it. I've loved the performance. It has been very reliable. The only issue I've ever had with it is that occasionally this tail cap can back off, which is not the product's problem. It's that I have only ever finger tightened it. And I know that like a lot of people are like, oh, that's all it should take. I wouldn't mind putting like an extra, inch or two, 1 or 2 inch-pounds on there with something mechanical to make sure it's good and tight. Good and tight. And the mod button that came with it, the mod button that came with it has been pretty good. I like it a lot. Pretty happy with it. There is normally a sling on here, but since I'm switching slings, I took it off. So don't judge me. There is a sling. The Razor 1-6 has been pretty darn good. When I first bought this, it was because I originally only had the Aimpoint PRO on the rifle, and I took that to the 2-gun matches. Nope. The one 2-gun match, I had the PRO on there. That was the first one I did with it. Got second place, was really happy with it. The PRO is a fantastic budget option, guys. And it's very GWatt, so a lot of guys, a lot of clawers and dudes like that kind of stuff. It's a good red dot, but I was looking for magnification, and I couldn't decide if I wanted a magnifier. I really hate the eye relief on magnifiers. Not my thing. So I went with the Vortex because I think it was one of the best options for the money with what you get. So you don't get the most amazing reticle in the world. You get very, very clear glass. You get good turrets. I like it, guys. I wish there was a screw-in like knob as opposed to these clamp style. What do you call it? Levers. I guess we'll call it a magnification lever. I wish they had something that just screwed in, so it was just a rod sticking out that I could use instead of these clamp-ons. It's good enough. Does the job. Like I said, the glass is really clear. The red dot in the center for when you're illuminating is definitely daylight bright. It is performed really, really well. And one thing I noticed at the DMR match was I didn't need 10x. I did not think that the 6x was too little magnification. I was really pleased to see that, anywhere from 200 to 800 yards, the 6x was plenty. And the 6x is definitely more than you need at 200 yards. I did think the reticle left a little to be desired, and I'm considering moving to the 1-10, not for the extra magnification, but for the reticle design. Why am I staying with Vortex instead of a different? I like the warranty, guys. I know some other guys claim to have the same warranty, but other companies are a little more difficult to actually use that warranty with. Vortex makes it really, really easy. And that's a selling point to me, honestly. If I have an issue, I'll make sure it's going to be taken care of, and it's not going to be a headache to call them. Other companies, it can be a headache. The barrel. So the reason I chose the Sons of Liberty Gunworks 13.7 is because I liked the specs that they tout. I cannot confirm every spec that is standardized, but I like the gas port diameter for the 13.7 mid-length gas system, and I wanted something that was, affordable, right? So it doesn't need to be a $450 barrel. This 13.7 inch barrel that is like right around $200 or less, I honestly forget how much I paid for it, was able to hit 1,000 yards if you have your correct data. So that barrel performs. I know there's been some recent reports of guys with these barrels having some accuracy issues. I cannot confirm or deny these. I was not there for any of this testing or issues that may or may not have happened, and I also don't know if it was a small batch run issue or what. I've heard some rumors that there is a changing in the manufacturing for Sons' barrels. I don't know. I'm not an industry expert when it comes to communication and information, right? I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know, and that's all there is to it. The bulk carrier group. The reason I got the bulk carrier group is I like that Sons is very honest about the materials they're using, and they're using some good materials. Carpenter 158 steel is fantastic, and they got a good warranty, guys. I mean, I think a lot of people downplay how important warranty is. A lot of the higher end companies are willing to just tell you to shove off if you have an issue with their product, which sucks because you're paying so much. Some of you know exactly which company we're talking about here, but I like Sons for a lot of things, not everything. And their barrel and their bulk carrier group I'm a fan of, so I'll use the product. The muzzle device, the Knox, it's actually a really good muzzle device, guys. I used to be, and in fact, in some of the podcast episodes, you'll hear me say that I don't believe in using a hybrid muzzle device. And this is a hybrid muzzle device. It has comp ports, and it is a flash hider, 3-prong flash hider. I was very torn on this, and I was very torn on how I wanted to time it when I first got it. Most of the time, when I was installing timeable ported compensators, right, such as the Knox, a lot of the times setting them to more of a 11 and 1 o'clock, or 10 and 2, whatever you want to call it, that tended to help the recoil more than timing it for a specific hand, like right-handed or left-handed shooting. The Knox was one of the first ones I installed where I noticed a serious difference when I put it at, let's say, top dead center with the ports going in a V pattern, and then timing it for right-handed or left-handed. And I'm doing this for me, so I'm right-handed, so it would go to my right. This makes a difference. So before I penned and welded it, I tested it in a few positions to make sure I noticed a noticeable difference, and I did. So it is time for right-handed shooting, and it's been very good. And we'll make sure that when the suppressor comes in, we'll do an alignment check with everything, and we'll see if it is still good once we get to suppression. We're going to leave it on there as much as we can to see if we have any issues with putting it on, taking it off, any kind of carbon lockup, anything like that. We shouldn't with the Chemo attachment system, but we'll see. So guys, I've been really happy with this firearm. Okay, it has competed in two-gun matches where it is more akin to, it's more suited for a two-gun match, although it's still not a dedicated competition gun because it's not as lightweight as humanly possible. It's not as fast cycling as humanly possible. I built it for reliability. I built it to make sure it's going to run with as much ammo as possible and for as long as possible. In fact, I forgot to mention that in this amount of time that it has been tested, the 1,000, well, I'm going to say minimum is 1,100 to 1,500 rounds of testing, it has only been lubricated twice, and those are months and months apart, right? So I can't afford to do all this in like a really short period of time. So as I said, I did all this testing over time as events would pop up where I could pick up ammo here or there and do what I could. And in that wide spread of time, I'd say about a year. I'd say about a year, which is kind of sad. I've only got 1,100 to 1,500 rounds to this in a year. It has been lubricated twice. Once this past weekend at the DMR match, and I have to say like 6 months ago, it was lubricated. And it has only ever been lubricated with Sons of Liberty Gunworks' lubricant, Spec 76, which I am not ready to report on. I bought it to test it. I have done some testing with it. I have had 2 other friends do some testing with it. So far, it seems like we like it, but we'll see. I don't want to give a report on something I'm not confident in. So it is ran mostly dry. In fact, before the match, I put a few drops on it, and it's dry already, you know. And that's not the lubricant's fault. I really did not put much on there at all. And then I fired 300 to 350 rounds through it this weekend. So it's done pretty good running dry. It would probably do better running actually lubed and try to help reduce wear. But like I said, this is just testing, guys. I'm really happy with this rifle. I want to keep using it and using it and using it and see when the first failure point appears and where it appears. Because everything here, I believe, should be reliable. Right, the barrel should be good for quite a while, and Sun's warranties their barrel. If you shoot out their barrel, they'll give you a new one. Last I heard, this may have changed, but this is the last thing I heard. I also just realized I forgot to mention the gas block. The gas block is a Geissele gas block, and they're bulletproof, guys. You pin them and dimple the barrel for the set screws. That thing is not coming off. They're bulletproof. I like them. I like the Geissele a lot. I know a lot of people don't because they're a little bit more expensive. But they're just like everything Geissele makes. They're slightly more expensive than they should be. But they're good. They're very, very good, and they're consistent with their specifications on inner diameter for where the barrel journal goes. They're really consistent. I see very little variance in that, which is really good to hear. Because in Aero, I'm not crap talking, guys. With Aero, I've noticed 2 to 4 thousandths of variance from gas block to gas block, and what that could really be is plus or minus 2. So that's not terrible tolerances in a company, but when you're dealing with a sealed gas system that you're doing everything you can up here to capture all the gas, that way when it comes back here, as much of it that you need is coming back. Leaking a little bit from here can actually cause a big issue. For example, a couple weeks ago I had a rifle that I could not figure out what was going on, and 2 small out-of-spec issues caused it to act as if it was completely undergassed, and that was a little bit of leakage from the gas block where the gas tube meets the gas block. It was leaking a little bit out of there, and then the gas key on the BCG was slightly out of spec, so the gas expansion chamber in the bolt carrier group was leaking a little bit as well. So you had 2 very, very small leakages, but the 2 of them combined caused it to not lock back and short stroke. So it's interesting, guys. I know a lot of people think ARs are super, super easy and that, you know, it's hard to mess it up, but go run some of the $400 ARs for thousands of rounds and then go run something a little bit better and see if you notice a difference. I know a lot of people are like, well, my AR's been to 17 classes and I've never cleaned it once. It's never been lubricated and it's from PSA and I got it on sale for $400. Super cool. I'm glad that you have that experience. I am really glad. But that is not the norm. And we're not betting on the rare exception here. We're betting on a tendency of average. And I have noticed this has been pretty good. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to be like, well, 1,100 to 1,500 rounds is not enough testing to say anything. And you're right. I will continue to do more. I'm not done. This isn't getting cast aside. I am not a giant YouTuber who gets a new gun every week, right? So this is my rifle that I'm taking to everything I can, and it's going to continue to get tested. And if whenever I have an issue, I'll report back. Like I told you, the Radiant Safety had an issue. If it was facing the other way, I would, well, I guess we can go ahead and into that. The firearm is empty, just so you guys know. I know we sat here and talked for quite a while before I did that. And some of you are gonna get mad, like, oh, you did it. I don't care. Like, even if it was loaded, like, I don't care that you guys see a loaded firearm. It's not an issue. I have a second loaded firearm in me right now, and it's not gone off magically. So we're going to push pressure on the Radiant Safety, push, and then turn, which obviously is not intended use. And now we are past the semi-auto position. We are floating. Now, if I kept pushing it all the way around, it would lock up, but now we got it back in the safe position. So that is an issue. It is not something that will happen to anybody on accident, as far as I know. I don't like that it's possible. I don't like it being an option to just happen, because if something crazy does happen, man, and it goes into that position and it goes too far, your firearm is down. It is out of the fight. It is useless. It is not a quick fix. You're not clearing a stovepipe. You are out of the fight. So, since this is built to be reliable, we're going to change the port out. And Radiant is kind enough to send a replacement. I'm really glad they've responded back. I have had bad experiences, if you have listened to the podcast. I have bad experiences with them answering the phone, but they answer an email in 20 minutes. So, maybe I caught the guy on the right day, or maybe the 2 weeks where I was calling them almost every day was just a bad 2 weeks. I don't know. but they responded, so we'll see if the new safety fixes the issue. If there's any other questions you guys have about this rifle and what I would do differently maybe, which so far nothing yet, I might switch the 1 to 10 just for the reticle options. We'll see. It depends on how much I really think I'm going to go to DMR matches, because realistically that's the only time it's going to come into crazy good use, because it'll have a slightly better reticle. This reticle is definitely serviceable. As I said, I hit 800 yards, no problem, 1,000 yards. It just, you have to know your data pretty well. That's the only issue. I think the other reticle that comes in the 1 to 10, either the MRAD or the MOA one, would both benefit longer range shots more. You get a little bit more information on there. Like I said, if you guys have any questions about anything I didn't cover that you would like me to cover on this rifle, please hit me up. Please comment in the comment section down below, or you can message me on social media on Instagram at TBRGunworks. Either way works for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, stay safe, and remember, every gun law is an infringement. Take care.